Hello and welcome to the Object Repository demo. In this series of videos, we'll demonstrate how this feature helps us develop automation projects in a faster and more reliable manner by utilizing UI libraries. In this video, we'll create a UI library and capture a set of descriptors for the ACME webpage. We'll then proceed to view and edit these elements within the Object Repository. Finally, we'll learn how to publish the library locally for future use. Let's get started. Let's create a new library project and provide it with a descriptive name. We'll add the UI object descriptors for the commonly used elements on the ACME website. To begin, let's define the application that we're using and identify the elements on the login page. To accomplish this, let's navigate to the Object Repository panel and utilize the recorder accessed through the Capture Elements button. Let's click the Start Recording option. This recorder helps us to identify and record the properties and attributes of the UI elements that we want to include in our object repository. Now that a recording session has been initiated, let's begin interacting with the application's user interface, UI. The first step is to capture the application itself. To do this, we'll click on the browser window that contains the application. As we interact with the UI, we'll notice that the recorder captures not only the application, but also the specific login screen or page that's currently displayed. When examining the properties of the captured UI elements here, we notice additional information such as the screen name, which refers to the specific screen or page within the application. Additionally, the browser type will indicate the type of browser being used, and the window selector helps identify the specific window or tab within the browser. These properties provide further context and assist in accurately referencing and identifying the captured UI elements. Let's now proceed to capture specific UI elements required for the login process. We'll indicate the email input field. As we observe the different targeting methods generated for this element, we'll notice that it includes a fuzzy selector and an image among its targeting options. Additionally, the capturing process also identifies the presence of an anchor along with its associated targeting options. Let's save and continue capturing the second element. Now let's indicate the password field. As it's identified as a password type, we have the flexibility to change the type for each UI element. It's important to note that changing the type doesn't affect the descriptor generated to identify the UI element in any way. However, it serves as a helpful feature for other developers as it assists them in identifying the specific type of element that they're dealing with. Let's update the type to an input field for the password element. Moving forward, let's proceed with recording the login button as well. Excellent! We've successfully captured the required elements on this screen. Let's now pause the recording and log in. Since this is a new screen, let's proceed to add a new screen. Great! We've successfully logged in. Alright, the new screen is added. You might be wondering if capturing all of the elements from this screen will be a tedious task and how it will be useful. Additionally, you might be considering whether indicating elements during the development of automation would be easier. To simplify the process of capturing multiple elements, we have the option called Capture All Elements. This feature allows us to easily identify and select all of the elements present on a screen. Instead of manually recording each element individually, we can use this option to record all of the elements that we need in one go. Let's click the Capture All Elements button. As we can see, this action has identified all of the elements on the current screen, including elements from both the dashboard and the browser. In our case, we only want to capture the elements specifically from the dashboard. To achieve this, let's click on Deselect All to clear the selection. Then we can individually select the desired elements or draw a box around them to group select. Next, let's select all of the elements present on the dashboard and click Capture option. As we do this, we'll notice that the selected elements are now being recorded. Once the capturing process is complete, we can find these elements listed under the respective screen from which we captured them. By organizing the captured elements under their corresponding screens, we can easily locate and manage them within our object repository. This helps us to maintain a structured and organized repository that aligns with the different screens or pages of the application. Next, let's capture elements from the Employee tab. To do this, let's pause the recording and click on the Employees tab. It's important to note that if we don't pause the recording, it'll capture the element again instead of performing the intended action of clicking the button. Once we're on the Employees page, let's add a new screen. Let's resume the recording and capture the Close button. We'll pause the recording once again and click the Close button. As part of our process, we need to access the details of the employee shown in the message box by clicking on the icon next to their name. One approach to achieve this is by capturing the descriptors of all employees and then selecting the specific employee shown in the message box. However, instead of following this method, we can create a descriptor with a dynamic selector that can work for any employee. Let's explore how this can be done to improve efficiency and flexibility in our automation. By creating a dynamic selector, we can eliminate the need to capture and maintain descriptors for each individual employee. This allows our automation script to adapt to different employees dynamically. Let's proceed to implement this approach and see how it simplifies the process. Let's resume the recording and click on any one of the icons. You can notice that all of the other icons are also highlighted, indicating that they're similar. This means that we can access the details of any employee by making the anchor dynamic. To do this, let's select the name to the right of our target as the anchor and go to Settings. And let's go over to the fuzzy selector. Now, instead of having a single value for the name attribute, we can make the selector dynamic by replacing it with a variable. Let's remove the existing name and create a new variable by hitting Ctrl+K. Let's call it Employee Name and use any of the employee names as the default value. We'll use Brad M. Roberts for now. We can fine-tune a selector using the text in the element. We can mention a specific text that an element must have for it to be considered. As we've updated the target element to be dynamic, we must do the same for the text in the element. So, let's create a new variable in the inner text field and assign employee name variable to it. Before we continue, let's change the element's name to employee details. And finally, we'll record the logout button. Great, we've recorded all of the UI object descriptors that we need. So, let's complete the recording and click Save. We can find all of the descriptors that we've just captured under the Descriptors tab of the Object Repository panel. Note that these are structured hierarchically. The application contains the screens which contain UI elements. There are a few useful things that we can do directly in the Object Repository panel. For example, we can edit the properties of an element such as name or type. Let's right-click the Employee Details descriptor and click on Edit Element. We'll update the type from None to Icon and click Save. We can also update the descriptor from the Object Repository panel. We just need to right-click an element and select Edit Descriptor. This will take us back to the application and we can update or recapture the descriptor. Note that for this option to work, we need to have the correct screen open in the application. For example, if we try to edit the descriptor for the email element on the login page while on a different page, the element will not be identified. Now that we're familiar with the object repository and its options, let's explore the process of publishing the library. Publishing the library allows us to make it available for other team members or automation projects to use. By sharing the library, we can promote reusability, consistency, and efficiency across different automation efforts. We'll click Publish, and for this demo, we'll publish the library locally. Let's set the version to 1.0 and click Next. We'll publish it in the Libraries folder. Note that if Studio is connected to Orchestrator, we can publish it in a tenant feed as well. Let's click Publish. Great, the publishing is done. And that's it for this video. Let's recap what we've done so far. We've created a new library project, captured a set of descriptors for ACME in Internet Explorer, edited them in the Object Repository panel, and published the new library locally. Thanks for watching and happy automation!